Welcome to TCBC Bicycle University for October 3rd, 2024. We are back from the summer and we hope everyone had a good one. It still seems to be summer weather, which is nice. My name is Edward Ero and I am the coordinator for Bike U. Tonight we have a panel discussion on night riding with Ed Hassler, Lisa Lawin, and Dianne Ziemer. Before we get to the program, however, I have a few announcements. This is the 7th session of Bike U for the 2024 TCBC Ride year. If you have not heard the previous sessions on the Tuesday tune-up ride, bicycle commuting, bicycle maintenance, randoneering, the Minnesota Bicycle Alliance, and free bikes for kids, as well as all the sessions from 2023 and 2022 ride years, please do so. Go to the Bike U page off the main TCBC website where you will find the link to each of the sessions on our YouTube channel. The recordings of the session tonight will be up after the conclusion of the meeting and after I've had time to edit and post it to YouTube. I want to thank our TCBC Bike U Council of Regents, which includes John Benda, Tim Rand, and Dan Miller for their work. I would also like to welcome Mary Miller, who joined the council this fall. If anyone else would like to join the council, please contact me as we welcome others to participate, and we want the council to be representative of the entire club, and additionally, that we cover subjects you all would like to see. During the session tonight, please keep your audio muted, but do keep your video on so that we can show who is in attendance tonight. Remember, we are recording. If you don't have yourself on mute and make any noise, it switches to your video and thus the recording gets messed up. There will be a question and answer session after the presentation, but during the meeting, you can enter questions in the Zoom chat function. We will be monitoring those questions and make sure they get answered during the Q&A. Please do not interrupt the speakers to ask questions during the presentation. I would like to now introduce Dan Miller, who has coordinated tonight's session and will be the moderator. Dan, over to you.
Good evening. I'd like to introduce Lisa Lawin, Dianne Ziemer, and Ed Hassler. That will be our panelists tonight. And I will be trying to moderate, and I hope that my responsibilities will be limited to a little timekeeping and a few questions to help just prompt us along. But I encourage the group here tonight to have a back and forth conversation that we can learn from each other, and there we go. So I'm going to start this out with just perhaps asking each of our three panelists to introduce themselves briefly. There's a longer introduction in the written Bike U format for each of them, but just to introduce yourself and to talk a little bit about your favorite night riding experiences and why and where you like to night ride or ride at night. So I'll let, why don't we start with Lisa? And you're on mute, Lisa.
I guess I can't do two things at once. Well, thank you for introducing me and inviting me to the panel. I'm a road cyclist, gravel, fat bike, and mountain biker. And the reason I wanted to join this panel is I've done a lot of ultra cycling. And so those are 24-hour races. And so it's important to be seen. So in 2019, I rode Race Across America, which is a 3,000-mile bike race with an 8-person team. So that started in Oceanside, California, and finished in Annapolis, Maryland. And we finished that in 6.5 days. So once the clock started, it did not stop. So that meant we were riding 24 hours a day, and it was important to be seen at night. And also did a race, I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 times around Minnesota for the same group. That was a 400-mile race that we completed in about 20 hours. And we did Race Across the West, which was 900 miles. And we did that in 2-something days, I forgot. Anyway, so that's why I'm here, is to give you some experience of how to be seen at night. Oh,
How about over to you, Ed?
Hello, one and all. And Dan, yeah, thanks for mentioning this to me. Um, I'm probably on my way out of TCBC because of health reasons. I've got balance issues, inner ear, um, foot issues, but I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm just letting you know that this may have been my last year. I can't swing my fake titanium hip over the saddle as easily, so it's I've had a great run with the club. I enjoyed it immensely. Before I joined TCBC, the longest I have ever gone on a bike was 50 miles, and that was when I was in junior high school. And then since joining the club, learning all of the trails that we have here in the Twin Cities, gradually built up and built up, and rode a record for me at least 8,600 miles, I think, in 2012. I got interested in, I had never ridden at night. I'm sure as a kid I had a bike light, front and rear, but I just never had the idea of riding at night did not excite me. I lived in downtown Minneapolis, and after I joined the club in 2007, I found urban funk at the corner of Bryant and Lake Street. That was Jamie McDonald's old Sunrise Cyclery. And it was a year-round ride. It started at 6 p.m. And of course, when the daylight faded, it became a night ride. That was one of the things that inspired me to become a ride leader, is that we needed two ride leaders for night rides. And sometimes both Pete Hall and Paul Huntington, who were the originators of that ride, both of them didn't show up, so we were kind of sunk. From there, I eventually became a ride leader or a full-time ride leader for Urban Funk, and it was great. We'd ride mainly in the city. I try to stay as much on trails, but of course, being in downtown Minneapolis, it was difficult to just maintain trails. Um, from there, I learned about winter night riding, and I think that's a kind of an acquired taste. I almost broke my hip before I realized I really needed studded tires, and that was an awakening. They helped immensely. Night riding in the winter is you can't necessarily see the ice. And anyway, I'm getting into the fine points, I guess, of the topic here, night riding. So I'll just say that I'm happy to have been with the Twin Cities Bicycling Club since 1919. Listen to me, since 2007, and made some wonderful friends. And I will pass with that. Thanks. And I'm going to mute myself now.
Okay, Dianne.
Hi, everyone. Um, Little background. I think I pretty much know everybody that I'm looking at here on this screen fairly well. Yeah, a little bit about me. I've been with TCBC since 2006. Became a ride leader in 2008. So basically, I've led a lot of rides over the past 16 years, plus out of town weekends up on the Iron Range every year. I've done that for the past 16 years as well. And then I really liked getting into, as a ride leader, I really like creating routes and utilizing the ride with GPS tools that we have. It has great capabilities. So it's a lot of fun putting routes together. And so with night routes, night riding, there's a lot of things you gotta be conscious of. And for me, wanting everyone to have a good experience, but yet be safe is the main thing with it. So, one thing I'll say about night riding is it is nice to have, a group of, at least six, 4 to 12 is a nice number. And the thing I see with night riding is that you want to be seen, and when you're in a group, you are seen. The technology now out there with LED lighting is incredible. So it's just, you're really visible in a group. I don't think I'd night ride by myself, and I really don't even too much like to ride in the day alone either out on roads. It's just when we're in a group, you're just so much more visible, riding together in a group and riding safe together. So night rides, few of my favorite things I like to do with night rides again is, we've got great trail systems. The one thing with some of the trail systems, you've got to really be careful, not to bunch up, space your riders a little bit out because of leaves and debris, especially in the fall time. There's can be stuff all over the trails. So, that's one thing I always talk to everybody about is, hey, make sure we, leave some distance between the middle person, communicate up. If, we're dropping somebody off the back or the back leader passes up, there's a gap, making sure that everybody in the group is passes that up. Passes that forward. But a lot of the fun with the night riding is, sometimes I'll look to, oh, when are we going to have a full moon? Because I've had some night rides where we've had some great, just, be in the trails and you got the full moon out. So it's kind of cool. And then this fellow moderating here, Dan Miller, him and I used to do some fun night rides back in the day as well. Remember we would do over on the east side of St. Paul and
Yep.
some of that, we had some pretty good routes and big groups. So I think it's just a great experience, and it's more social, it's more laid back. Yeah, I just like I have a ride coming up this Tuesday, a night ride, and this will be kind of more of a suburban route where we'll be on roads, but yet we'll do some of the Lake Elmo trail systems as well on that, and should be, I always looking for good pavement, that's one thing we always look for. The other thing too with that I see too with is the wider tire bikes now. A lot of people still like to ride their road bikes when it's decent weather out. Most everybody now is riding pretty much 28 cm. There's still a few on 25s. I hardly know of anybody on 23s anymore, but I always say the wider the tire at night, the better. The better as well. So that's kind of my recap of night riding, but it's fun. I enjoy it.
So, hello, Dianne, you shared with us some of the reasons why you night ride. And one of the rides that when you suggested we rode over on Margaret Street and over in each side. And one of my favorite experiences of riding at night was going down Margaret Street in the middle of the night, smelling barbecue and getting invited to the barbecue.
That happens.
So I was just wondering if Lisa and Ed, if you have a favorite experience that you'd like to just share of something that was unique about a night ride that you were on. Go ahead, either of you. Yeah.
Hello again. I have a very favorite memory. It's one of Renee's favorite memories too of night riding. It was about a week before Christmas. probably 2010 or maybe 11. And it was relatively warm. It was maybe in the mid 20s. So it was not bitterly cold. We were heading south of Lake Street, and I don't even remember where. It doesn't make any difference. But here we are with all our blinky lights going. We looked like this psychedelic centipede wending our way through what was becoming a snowstorm. And again, it wasn't a blizzard. The snow was coming straight down, and it resembled like being in a snow globe. It was absolutely beautiful. And by the time we got back to the ride start, there's probably 8 inches of powder on the ground. So it's my fave.
Uh, I had an experience when I was doing Race Across the West in 2017, and we were riding uh, in Arizona, and they had just had fires go through the area. So it was kind of this fiery mist, the smoky mist at night. And we were going on non-busy roads. But I just remember going through this forest with the mist in place, and I could see fine because I just needed to keep track of the road. But all around us was the mist, and it was just kind of like you were in the middle of space. It was really weird, but fun. So it's not the same as a group ride, but it was a fun act.
Yeah, unique. So I'm going to move on to our next question here, and that is, and this is general, and we'll just let you guys pipe in. What preparations do you make for night riding in terms of visibility, lighting and equipment, safety, bicycle and clothing? How do you prepare differently or similarly to that when you're doing a day ride? What's the differences? And maybe Ed, maybe you would like to start this time. We'll get you first and follow Dianne and then Lisa.
Well, the lights, number one, I guess that's the main thing.
And
I read
Ed,
an article that,
if
can you
there's
hear me?
any types of lights, if there's any types of lights that you would recommend, that's been a question that has been forwarded to me in the past, and also to you and Dianne. Lee.
The lights that I used and have subsequently sold are no longer manufactured, so I can't recommend them. I have no way. I'm sure there's lots of wonderful, as somebody pointed out, wonderful LED lights on the market. I read an article that in Germany, for example, flashing rear lights are illegal. They detract from the motorist's ability to see the biker. We don't have such a thing. I know that some people are very, very sensitive to taillights. So I tried to keep mine on the lower setting, especially if we were in a group. There's no need to blind the person behind me. In terms of lighting, that's probably the most important aspect of a night ride. Make sure your batteries are charged. That's it.
Yeah, whenever you go on a night ride, it's like getting ready for it. It's like, okay, is everything charged up? Everything's, get everything charged, getting ready. Um, it's a little effort. I mean, getting used to if you're organized, it's not too bad, but sometimes I show up at a ride and I'm like, oh, where's this? Where's that? No. Um, but anyhow, yeah, having the lighting, and like I talked about, riding, especially if you're riding trails, the proper distance between riders, the communication. As far as clothing goes, trying to, wear, clothes that are high vis. Our nice new TCBC, um, the jackets and everything are pretty, the nice bright yellow. That's kind of a nice color if you don't have reflectors. Um, and like Ed talked about as well, with the rider in front of you, with, that has blinking red light, we don't like that. We always say if you got blinking lights, turn it to solid, because I mean there's some people their lights are so bright, and even in the day they have them on, and they blind you if you're riding behind them. So that's important. And then as far as, one thing, a lot of times the rides are listed as a B or a B ride at night. And, if the weather's cooler, I don't like stopping for a rest stop, because once you stop and then try to get going again, it's hard to warm up again. So, that was one thing back in the day. Ed, I think I used to be on a few of your old night rides back in the day, and you guys would always go stop somewhere and and I'd like, oh my God, it's freezing out and we're gonna stop, and now we have to get going again. So when I lead night rides, we don't usually stop. It's kind of, we just keep moving, and the colder the weather gets, the less miles we'll do. Um, just because some people are like, well, it's pretty cold. I don't want to go more than 15 miles tonight or 20. So with the weather also depends on the mileage, how I, prepare the routes and things like that. So, but yeah, otherwise, just wearing the right clothing, and like I say, the wider the tire, the better. What's that, Ed? You're on mute.
Sorry, I don't mean to do. I found that I really had to try out different pairs of gloves. My extremities get cold, my hands, my feet, and it was very important to get a really good pair of gloves and boots. I didn't wear cleats during the snowy winter months because I wanted to get my feet off the pedals as quickly as possible. But for me, it was mittens and the right kind of insulated boots.
So for night riding, I think the most important thing is preparation and picking a bike that you're going to ride at night and getting it ready. And you guys talked about having the right headlights, and I have exposure lights, and of course, make sure that they are charged and that your front light is at least 70 lumens and your rear light is at least 100 lumens, and add a helmet light if you want. But in addition to that, I would get your bike ready and put reflective tape on it. Now everybody knows that the reflective tape by 3M sticks and you'll never get it off. So what you do for your winter bike is put a layer of electrical tape down and then put the reflective tape on top of the electric tape. And then when you're done, you can peel it right off. And I just sold a set of wheels that I used in a race, and I had the reflective tape on it for like 4 or 5 years, and I was able to pull that right off with no problems with the electric tape. So where you want this reflective tape is on your rear stays. You want it on the back of your shoes, like the heels of your shoes. You want it on your pedals, and you want it on your wheels on the side. Now, if you have rim brakes, make sure that you are not touching your braking surface with this, but you want to be seen from the side as well. So putting the reflective tape on your wheels helps a lot. Let's see, your crank arms from the rear and the sides. And let's see, back of pedal, shoes, rears. Okay, so that's kind of the biggest part. Other things you can do are, here's a reflective vest. And you can buy these on Amazon. There's other places you can get them. And when I did my races, it was in the middle of summer, so there wasn't really much opportunity to wear the vest, but I did wear it whenever I could, whenever it was cool enough. And there's spray on paint that you can use for your clothing that you can wash off. So there's spray reflective tape. So, and you can find that on Amazon too. So you can get the washable or non-washable kind. So you can spray the trunk of your clothing, you can spray your helmet, and if it's the washable kind, when you wash your clothes or your jacket, it'll come off. So once again, it's just whatever you can do to be seen. So that is the piece that I wanted. So that's a piece that I wanted you to know about being seen. Oh.
I have
Hey,
a
Lisa, I'll bring my bike over for you to put the tape on.
one more comment about the reflective clothing, and I agree. I had reflective ankle elastics, and they were 360 reflective. Really helped, especially seeing the reflections going up and down, or your feet going up and down, makes an impression. One time on a winter night ride, I told Renee, who had all of the piping on her winter jacket was reflective, and she had these reflective designs. And I told her she looked like a character out of that old movie Tron, where everything was outlined in neon. And she said, "Oh yes, every girl wants to hear that." That's it.
So if I'm used to day riding and should I show up in spandex or shorts or what to expect? I guess summer is different than winter, but it gets colder as it gets dark, doesn't it? And Dianne mentioned layering, and I think some of this has to do with the pace that you are riding as to how much clothing you wear. Any thoughts on that?
I'm a wuss. I get cold really easily. And it just took me, again, by going from fall into winter and gradually acclimating and finding out what worked, what didn't work, was the only way that I could learn about dressing. I know some people wore a lot lighter, at least it looked like lighter clothing than I did. But I just had to learn this from personal experience. And that's all I can say about that.
Okay. Any other thoughts? How about eyewear?
I used to wear goggles when it was bitter cold, like down around 10 or below or close to zero, and they would fog up. They would fog up, and my glasses would fog up. So there's a preparation. I think fog proof is the name of one of the preparations. But regardless of what kind of stuff I put on the glasses or the lenses of the goggles, they would still fog. So I don't know how to get around that. Glasses are a big problem in the winter riding.
Yeah, I guess I was getting at the thing that you obviously, if you're riding at night, you're probably not wearing sunglasses.
I have clear or pink shaded glasses, and I like really big glasses for riding to protect my eyes.
Yeah.
And goggles for the winter for fat biking are pink, and I have some no fog ones.
Yeah.
But anyway, so what do you wear is you dress for the temperature and try to have as many reflective surfaces as you can. You know, if you can get a fully reflective jacket, if you're going to be near traffic, get it.
Right. And I think, Dianne, you had mentioned a little bit in group riding, a little bit of spacing is good between bikes. Do you find that you ride farther apart in a group when you're at night than in the daytime, or?
I again, I think it, it depends on the type of terrain you're on. So I just on at night and even in the day on trail riding, I just, think we need to have a little bit of spacing in there, but not necessarily on the road. Um, if you got a good group and riding a decent pace line, comfortable with everyone. Not always necessary, but I just stress it on trails, having that room between riders.
Just because it's you can go off the edge of a trail a lot quicker than on the road.
Yeah, and I've done it. I've done it before and I was actually riding my mountain bike, and it was the whole path was covered with leaves, and I went off it and got caught right between the path and the side of the ground, the grass area. It was like a rut. My tire went right in it, and I went down on the bike, and that was on a night ride too. So yeah, so that's why I always say kind of space out, because especially you don't know what's underneath the leaves, or if you're even, you know, on the path itself. So, but when we're riding on the roads, probably just normal pace lining. Then a lot of times, then we get on some of the neighborhood, low traffic back roads. Then of course we're kind of just riding, you know, double or couple here, couple there, but still in the group, keeping the group together. Um, but when we get on the busier roads again, single file, at night, that's important, at night. So
What do you do to keep the group together?
what do we do?
How do you manage that as a leader?
Well, you need to, who's ever at the front needs to basically kind of know what's going on behind. And if there's a gap, like I say, when we're on a night ride in particular, because you have a leader, front and back, it's nice to have that, if that person passes up, hey, there's a gap. We just need to make sure that the group communicates. Who's ever in the middle, pass it up so the leader knows. Dial it back, slow it up. So, but that's the best way, and you need to also talk about that at the ride brief. Basically pass the word up when there's a gap. So, and in the day too, and light time hours as well.
Okay, we're going to move on to the next question here, if there's no follow-up. So this question is, TCBC has different night ride categories, ranging from night A, night AB, night B, night BC, and night C, similar to the daytime rides. However, they're all marked with a black background and white letters. They require 2 leaders and vary in distance, rest stops, and riding speeds. What level of rides do you do, and what are they like? Are they suburban or urban? Are they on trails or roads? Is there ambient light available, or are you dependent solely on bike lights for illumination? And Lisa, why don't you start out? Don't need
Well, I haven't been doing many night rides with the club because I'm retired, so I try to get it done during the day. So I'm going to let Diane and some of the other people address this.
Yeah, I can take that one. You know, so the ride I have coming up this next Tuesday night, it is listed as a night AB, but it'll be the lower end pace, about a 15, probably about a 15-ish average. And the reason I list it as an AB is because a B, you're supposed to technically, you know, have a rest stop somewhere. I think you still do on a B ride. And like I said, if the weather is cooler, cooler temps or whatever, I really don't want to have a rest stop in there. Plus, we like to kind of get done so we can go warm up somewhere and socialize after the ride. Um, but yeah, so usually, yeah, I would, this road I've got coming up, it'll be an AB. It'll be on suburban, Washington County, back roads, and also some of the Lake Elmo, area and Oakdale trail systems. But yeah, you know, I thought about B as well, but we're not going to be riding a high-end AB. We'll be, and as the heavier bikes come out, it still may be considered AB, but we're probably going to be riding a B pace. It's just that there's not going to be a rest stop involved. So that's kind of what I look at. And terrain too. I mean, hillier routes, you can, are going to be slower pace as well. But most of these are fairly flat that we do at night. So, or I should say that I lead at night. So. Ed,
When I was doing this, there was no, I think it was just a C night and a B night. And my rides were mainly, they were very social, and the emphasis was on definitely stopping at a rest stop. I know it is difficult to get going. I know that from randonneuring, especially late at night, in the wee hours of the morning, to get going again outside. But on the more social rides, I think everybody appreciated, look forward to the rest stops. We often stopped at Turtle Bread down on, I think it was Chicago. I haven't lived in that neck of the woods for a long time. So I guess I agree with everything that you mentioned, Dianne, except that the rides that I did were more social oriented. I would never myself dream on going on an AB night ride. Just the speed alone. First of all, I'm not an AB rider. I think I was close at one time, but again, it would more social and more easygoing. That's all I have on that subject.
comments from Linda or or Mary or Gina, Fran?
Yeah, I would say one thing is the lights are a lot better than they used to be. I think about 10, 15 years back, the lights were nearly the intensity that they are now. And so that allows you to go a little bit faster because you've got, just the better lights. And I think it's important to try to keep a group together at whatever speed is comfortable for people. So A riders aren't necessarily comfortable going a B pace. So, if we can so it's nice if there are night rides that are at the higher pace, the higher levels for those that that tend to, that ride those speeds.
Linda?
I have just a couple comments. I think I've ridden some of Diane's, some of Ed's. I think Mary used to have some night, but it wasn't necessarily in the dark. And I have fond memories of doing it. I just loved riding at night. There's something different. You can do the same route, but at night it's totally different again. It's just I don't know what it is. Really fun, but yeah. And Ed, yes, I remember coming on your Urban Funk. But like Lisa said, now being retired, I want to ride during the day. I like riding, the daylight, the nice temps, and where I can see everything. So rarely will I go on a night ride anymore. As much as I would like, it's going to impact riding the next day or my choice to ride the next day. So I've kind of just let it go. But I do might get back out there, but I don't think I'm going to do AB at night. I think I need more reaction time, not quite such high speeds at night, for me anyway. So.
Have we talked yet about harrowing experiences at night? I've got two stories to tell. One time we were again, Renee and I were on I think we were on a 400 down in southeastern Minnesota, very hilly, and we hear this farm. It's about 3 a.m, pitch black, no moon, no street lights, no lighting of any kind except our headlights, and we hear this big farm dog running up behind us, and we're going up an incline, and so we can't go very fast. Unfortunately, I guess the dog was just more curious, but he was right behind us. We could hear him snorting and huffing, and his nails clicking on the pavement, and that was kind of scary. I didn't think he would attack us, but anyway, it was something that we were glad that we didn't experience again. On another randonneuring, this is again overnight. It was right around bar closing time, and a bunch of young people were out in front of the bar, and they're yelling at us as we go by, "Hey, we don't drive in your neighborhood. Why are you biking in ours?" And so we just ignored them, and that was probably the wise thing to do. Those are two of my Ed's harrowing experiences.
Dan, you're on mute.
Thank you.
I thought I unmuted.
Yeah.
Anyway, I wanted to go back to some of the finer experiences like Linda was bringing up. Just had some wonderful rides, and somebody mentioned smooth pavement, but I think I would just accentuate that while routing night rides, one of the things we really focused on was trying to really find smooth pavement to lessen the chances of accidents. And even though your lights are much better now, I know that at night the light is different and reflects differently. So I think it's probably still not a bad idea to keep in mind. Oh, that's my 2 cents worth.
One of the things which I did when I designed night rides, they were urban rides, and but it was being able to spend some time in a very dark area where you were very dependent on lights to see what you're doing, to open up to a part of the city that had a lot of illumination, where your bikes were basically for people to see you. And I always found that to be an interesting thing, to go from dark to light, to kind of give you a break, because sometimes when would do long, dark routes, I tended to go to sleep, or I tended to just dull out. Has anybody else had that experience, or is it just me? Okay. All right.
Well, I like riding at night because I don't get so distracted,
Mhm.
because you just pay attention to what's going on right there, and you have to. But then I don't, get distracted by looking at the bunnies and the yards and the barns and everything. And so it's kind of fun because you can just ride.
Yeah. Okay, well, we have some night riding opportunities coming up that are on the calendar, but people want to share some things, some activities that are, Dianne mentioned some rides coming up. Anybody else here in the audience that wants to advertise a night ride that they are either leading or would like to see some people join them on? All right. So we have got some time for some questions and answers and see where we go from there.
Yeah, Dan, I'll start out with some questions. I've become a huge proponent of lights during the daytime, and I do blinking lights. Sorry for folks that don't like blinking lights. But at nighttime, I'm not much of a night rider. I did, Mary Dirks, come back from your ride last night, uh, alone night riding, and I sort of compromised because it's about being able to see with the light, but also being seen by drivers or other folks or pedestrians even. Um, what are your thoughts at night, blinking versus just solid lights? And I sort of have two sets of lights, front and rear, and I had blinking and non-blinking riding home last night, but just wanted your thoughts on the types of lights.
Do a solid rear light at night. And then hopefully you have enough reflective surfaces so that then you're recognized as a bike.
I would ditto Lisa, Ed, and then when you're riding back home to your place, because I know you always do green miles, then I would use your blinking lights, especially on the rear, probably not in the front, because you're going to have better visibility with a solid light in the front.
Ed or Diane, your thoughts?
Yeah, I just solid on the front and solid on the back when you're in the group. Particularly, like I said, I don't use lights in the day. But at at nighttime, definitely, no blinking in the group. So
Definitely solid lights in the front. I know I do have,
yeah.
I've got one that blinks, but it's more of just like a warning light. I would always use the blinkies in the back, the super flash on a blink mode, unless somebody complained, unless there was somebody directly behind me that thought it was way too distracting, and then I would turn it to a low mode or to just solid.
Yeah. Probably your back rider is probably the person to have that going, the back, who's ever on the back. But it's
Sweet.
real distracting to the rider, um, right behind you.
Have you had experience? Do you have a backup light in case batteries or whatever in case your light goes bad?
Well, I have one on my helmet and on my handlebar. So if one goes, I've got the other, and I use them both, particularly at night on night rides, because if you're on trails, especially, it's really nice to have it up on your helmet because where your head moves is, um, you know, basically where you're looking. That's where it's going to shine. So. And I've been on several night rides where folks, their lights have gone out and they haven't had a backup light, so we try to tuck that person in the middle, so that they're not off the back or, off the front. So, but it's happened.
Agree with Diane about the helmet light. I love having a light on my helmet because wherever you turn, there's light. because you're
Yeah.
always looking around, you're on trails, there's more turns than there are on a normal ride, especially if I'm leading a night ride. I definitely want it on my helmet because you're leading the way for all the people behind you. And so I do the same as you do, Diane. I have one on my helmet and then one on my bike. So, but definitely one on the helmet.
Yep. And a lot of folks are mountain biking now at night, and it's really nice. I've done a few mountain bike rides at night, and it's actually really fun. And again, like Mary said, with the light on the helmet, it, it's awesome. That's the way to go.
But
Plus you have an
another thing,
automatic backup. Go ahead, sorry.
another thing you can do, or is what I did as a backup light, is have a small LED light that you know is going to last a long time, and then your bright headlight. Because sometimes the bright headlights, you're not sure how long they're going to last. So, but like just run with 2 headlights.
Yep.
So one is not what you would choose to use, but it's going to last for a long, long time. And so you've got a plan B.
I know on the LED lights in blink mode, they last a lot longer. And as I said earlier, I become a big proponent of of having blinking lights on during the day. Because if I always tell people, when you're driving, do you see the rider? And Lisa, I like what you said about clothing, and it's nice to have, yellow, red, and visible clothing, but at night, you can't see that any more than you can see somebody wearing dark clothing. And so you need the reflective thing. And the question I had is, where do you get this reflective tape? Is that just through Amazon or somewhere? Is there a brand?
Probably 3M.
Yeah, you can get it on Amazon, you can get the 3M, you can get it at hardware stores.
Okay.
Menards.
Yeah, I mean, just make sure you use electrical tape or you'll never get it off.
Yeah.
I mean, they even
Well,
have little kits on Amazon with like little circles and little strips so that you can just take them off and put them on your bike.
Or if you
You mentioned
forget,
putting it on your pedals. How do you put tape on your pedals?
I just stuck them on my pedals and didn't worry about taking them off. So it's just like on the flat surface. I just took a little oval shaped sticker and put it on the back. And then I also put it on the back of my shoe.
Okay.
So
Yeah, they say it's the moving parts that are really seen, daytime or nighttime. So when you're pedaling, your feet are moving, and that creates, especially with so many distracted drivers now. Another question I had, and Mary Dirks, was from riding back from your ride, and I mainly, riding back downtown, I'm on trails and stuff. I noticed, and this is not something that we can do, but maybe influence when you're going from road to a trail, how there's curbs and stuff, and some of them just have this really narrow opening to get on, and you don't always see that as well, even in the day, but at night especially, that you have to be real careful about that when you're crossing. I like it when they keep everything flat and you can go on because it's so easy to hit a curb. But the other thing I noticed is that, pedestrians don't wear any type of lighting. And I had a hard time seeing people, especially on the trails, um, uh, right away. And just any thoughts on that?
Well, I'm going to focus just for a second on the part about the narrow avenues onto the bike trails when you're crossing streets. I had a really bad experience one time. I was actually previewing a night ride, and it was just right after dark, and I was at the very end of it, and going on St. Anthony Parkway all the way through St. Anthony. they have these white dotted lines that lead right into the ramp onto the side or onto the next bike path across the street. You cross into northeast Minneapolis at Johnson Street, and all of a sudden it tips. So the first one I came to, I went straight across and hit the curb and went over the handlebars. And I think that was probably my first concussion. I didn't realize I was out, but a lady stopped and she was really, really concerned. She said, "You were out." But I didn't go to the hospital. She just took me home. But anyway, that, and then the other thing I wanted to mention, along with visibility. Now, my new bike has white sidewalls. My old hybrid had white sidewalls that I did use for night rides almost always. And that's something that didn't come up. You don't need the reflective tape if you've got those white reflective sidewalls. And they aren't just white. I mean, right now in a light room, they're like glaring at me because I have my bike charging next to me. Anyway, so.
Mary, Schwalbe tires, I think, had those reflective white sidewalls, very visible at night. I never owned a pair, but I always could spot a biker that had them.
Any tips for looking out for pedestrians?
I don't have a tip for looking out, except again, the headlight mounted on the helmet really helps for looking around and scanning the upcoming area. It's not for avoiding pedestrians, but I remember I used to belong to a greenway, what was it, Trail Watch Greenway. We'd start off down at the Sears building. We were meant to be just kind of the eyes at night, not looking for trouble in that sense, but if we saw anything, we were supposed to call the police. We're not supposed to get involved. And I know coming back, it was about 11 or 12 at night, and there weren't very many people out on the trail on the greenway, and I see this kind of a faint blue glow in the distance, and it got brighter and brighter and brighter, and here it was, some kid. He's all dressed in black, no headlight, no taillight, and he's looking at his phone. And so that's the glow of the phone on his face that I was seeing. So I guess that's something not to do at night.
Yeah, I think, Edward, one of the things with pedestrians, and, I notice in the day, say we're on the Browns Creek Trail or whatever, we're coming up in a group, and you've got walkers, joggers, whatever. What I like to do, as we're in a line coming up, say we're coming up the Browns Creek and there's a runner on the right. Well, someone will say, runner up. Well, what I try to do, and not everybody does that, but what I try to do is just, if the runner's on the right, I raise my hand for which side that person's on, especially when you're in a pack on a bike. The hand signal, they know, then you know what side. If you're short like me and someone says runner up, well, I'm back there. I got tall guys or something in front of me. I don't know if it's on the left side or the right side, other than once the line moves over to the left, well, then I know, okay, they're on the right, but and at night, as well, just kind of, when, instead of just runner up, on the right, on the left, those cues really help. But as far as pedestrians go, a lot of them are wearing headsets. They don't hear you when you're coming up on them, we're on your left, and, and you startle them, so, and a lot of them are thankful though that don't have the headset on, and you say you're on coming up on your left, they say, thank you, because I've walked and had bikers come up and not announce that they're behind you. So, just as courtesy, you should always, announce that you're coming, and then hopefully, they can hear you. But like I said, a lot of them are wearing the earbuds and they don't hear you.
I would say if you're going to be riding in an area like on a trail with pedestrians, get really, really, really bright lights.
Yeah, at night. Yeah.
I mean, they're expensive, but you can get them.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just had a hard, the pedestrian would come up pretty quick. And Diane, I agree with you on announcing. I have a bell on my bikes too that I'll ring it. But same thing. A lot of times people have headphones on and they don't hear you. I mean, it's like you're right behind them and they still don't hear you. But I always like ring the bell, then say on your left or whatever.
I don't assume that they, even if I say on your left, I wait for some acknowledgement from them before passing because, like you said, a lot of people have earbuds in and they don't hear you. And I don't want to take a chance that they didn't hear me and then they decide to move into my path. So I'll, almost come to a stop just waiting for them. Um,
Well, Dan, you're on mute.
Had to find the mouse. Sometimes you can put your hand in front of the your light to cause it to blink, just muffle it. And yeah, I think the thing is you can't expect people to move to one side or not. You've got to worry about them. Yeah, you've got to slow down. I mean, you got to break your pace to be able to let them know that there's a large group behind you and stuff like that. Yeah.
Dan, I don't see any questions in the chat. So I don't know if there's other questions or comments.
Uh, let's see. Can you hear me? Lisa, you said you used exposure exposure lights. Is that right? I think that's a brand.
I bought them on Competitive Cyclist, and the reason I got them there was another cyclist I know that
Yeah.
used them, and he was doing Race Across America and Race Across England and all these other things, and they were pretty bright. And like the daytime running ones that I use last like 12 to 18 hours. So that's what I used in the past, like that was before LED lights. So I'm not sure what's out there now, but
Okay.
um,
I was just curious what a good brand of LED light
well, these
would be.
weren't
Some,
LEDs. These are just
yeah.
regular lights.
Okay. Anybody else have a actual brand, either front or rear?
I use Night Rider for the front, and I also have a Surface one. And then I don't know what the little ones I use on the back are, but they charge up. I got a couple of them. I think I can't think of the name brand on them, but those work pretty good too. I'll have to check it out what those are.
Bontrager makes some good lights. I think they're actually another company. I think it's just they sell it under the Bontrager name, but I've had real good luck with those. I mean, I go out for a century ride, you know, obviously daytime blinking, and they last the whole day.
Great.
What I will say for rear lights is if you're going to get a new rear light, I'd get a radar light, like a Garmin radar light that tells you when a car is coming up behind you, because that's what I use as a rear light now. And I just looked it up, and Exposure is the brand name. They're made in Europe. So that's what I have for headlights.
Okay. Yeah, I'm noticing more and more of our riders have the radar for their rear light.
Yeah, somebody on Monday night's ride, can't remember who it was, but they were behind me, and every time a car would come, it beeped, and then I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. So they knew right, you knew right away when a car was coming. So, and that's by radar, Lisa?
That's a Garmin. And so it'll actually come up on your headset and let you know that there's a car coming up behind you.
Oh, okay. I don't have a Garmin, so okay.
Oh, okay. And then
Oh, Yahoo.
if you're doing a really long ride for like over 6 hours, you need to turn the light off and just use it as a radar because they don't last as long.
Okay.
So, I mean, most people just do normal rides, so you'll be fine.
I have a cycle light and I've liked it really well. It's not IUD, so they're probably even better now than when I got mine, but it has always been really bright and it lasts a long time. And it's small and compact. And oh, way back when on Mary's rides, not Dan and mine, but I'd go on Mary Dirk's rides, and I remember some people that didn't have very good lights would always ride in front of Steve Block.
Yeah. Steve always his lights lit up the whole forest, the trail, they were like car headlights.
Remember Pete
But-
Hawkins' light with a great big
Car battery.
car battery?
Yeah.
That was hilarious. I mean, that's like 15 years ago, and I think about how much lights have improved. So
Okay, we're coming to a close. I think that thanks to our panelists and to our audience here, and I think we had a nice discussion, and I appreciate everybody sharing.
Yeah, I'll close things up here. I want to thank again for Ed, Lisa, and Dianne, and Dan for coordinating the sessions. Really great session, some good information for us all. And thank you all for attending. The recording will be up shortly after it's uploaded to our YouTube channel. The link will be in the notes of the session. We'll have a little wrap-up summary too. The TCBC Bike U Council of Regents is working on other sessions for this in the fall and into the winter. We are looking on a session called Biking into Your 80s and Beyond. If you have some other ideas for programs, please write to us at bikeu@biketcbc.org, and the council will discuss them at our next meeting. So thank you again for attending, and we hope to see you all again next time.